All right, well, I'd like to welcome to the stage former mayor of Fresno and current co-chair of California Forward, Ashley Swearengin, and the governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom.
Hey, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Nice to see you all. They love you, Ashley. Good to be here.
Wow.
Thank you. Wow.
Surprise. Surprise. I want to make sure my mic is working. Am I good? There we go. Okay, everybody, surprise. Hey, I heard a rumor this morning that Governor Newsom is coming to the Economic Summit. And it turns out that rumor is true. So, Governor, welcome.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for making a special effort to be here. You know, we on the California Forward Board are so proud of Governor Newsom's attendance record. It's like there's a little chart in the California Forward boardroom, and we check off each year.
Yeah.
10 of 11 economic summits.
I know. I missed one. I missed one.
Well, I will admit that your record is better than mine. So, so congratulations on that.
I appreciate it.
So it was really good of you to stop by. This has been really a crescendo moment, I think, for California Forward. The largest summit ever is happening right now in Kern County.
Amazing. Congratulations,
Bakersfield.
everybody. It's great. Deservingly.
And I think, I know we just have a few minutes, but the two things I really want to tee up for you and for folks here in the audience, first of all, talking about the significance of discussing California's future economy in inland California.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also something about energy might come up in this conversation. But Governor, I'd love to just have you start off and talk a little bit about the former mayor of San Francisco who spends an awful lot of time in inland California. And what is that for you? And like, what are you seeing? And how do you see the future of your state in an inclusive way with inland?
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the latter part of the question. And some of you heard me say this before, but I've got a chip on my shoulder about people feeling like they're not being respected. I don't like hearing people when they tell me they're not being seen. They don't feel that they belong in the larger narrative of the state. And I hear that way too often when I travel inland in California, when I travel in the Central Valley. But not just the Central Valley, the northern part of California and the southern part of California that doesn't end in LA. And often that's forgotten. And so I've very intentionally, and it's honestly, a lot of it has to do with the relationship that we've had over the years, and the good work you were doing as mayor of Fresno, the expectation that you set for other mayors to be heard and to be seen. And I wanted to carry that in, not just rhetorically, but substantively. And that's when I got involved with California Forward as lieutenant governor. We started putting an economic and workforce development plan. We framed it around regions rising together. It allowed me to more granularly start to appreciate and understand the extraordinary dynamism and entrepreneurial energy that exists in parts of the state that are not part of our national and statewide conversation. And that's what led us to partner on the Fresno Drive initiative. I was privileged to be able to help fund a little bit of that. You did all the work. Then you leveraged that work, not just in terms of resources, but a resourceful mindset, and you inspired others, including our remarkable mayor down here in Bakersfield with the B3K initiative. And that led to this $600 million. I mean, and I hope you understand this. I've been involved in state politics for a little bit of time now as lieutenant governor. There's never been an allocation that was intended for a region. And by the way, don't tell anybody, but that $600 million was intended for this region when it was originally drafted. We worked with the legislature to broaden it a bit, but you were in mind, because I am very mindful of the anxiety that all of us are feeling in the context of the other part of your question around transition around addressing these new realities that all of us are facing. And the responsibility I have, not just to say we're going to do the right thing, but to actually do it and to prove it to you. And that's going to be hard and stubborn, and I'm not going to convince everybody, but I mean it. I come back over and over and over again with intentionality to make the case, you matter, we care, and we have a responsibility to this dynamic and extraordinary part of our state. And that's why I'm proud that you're hosting the 11th Annual Economic Summit here in Bakersfield in Kern County.
All right. And so that's really the perfect segue to what has been at the forefront of our conversations these last 2 days, just the real talk about our energy future, the energy evolution, as I was reminded by Mayor Go, that that's the way Kern County is thinking about it, the
Right.
energy evolution. And we've heard, this is kind of what California Forward is all about, like let's get it all on the table. We've had very different points of view. We've had firm and focused comments rebutting the state's moves to really take on climate change. We've had a lot of other points of view as well. So talk a little bit about how in the world do you imagine navigating the state through this transition? Talk about your commitment to that, number one, but then number two, and we'll get to this a little bit later, what do you do if you're on the front line of that transition and it's hitting you? Like, how do we reconcile these things?
I mean, we're all iterating in real time. You know, we're all going to experience the future together. Divorce is not an option. So there's certain realities, and those existential realities are pretty self-evident to all of us. You don't have to believe in climate change. You have to believe your own experience, your own eyes. Extreme heat, extreme drought, extreme polarization. But there's certain realities. We've lost 3 towns that have been completely destroyed. Lifestyles, traditions, memories. Ask the folks in Greenville or Grizzly Flats just in the last year and a half, 3 years ago, paradise. There's certain fundamental realities. We're entering in possibly another year of drought. 7 of the last 10 years of extreme drought. Western United States, a mega drought. Senator Kelly put out a, rather scathing letter 2 days ago in Arizona about our relationship to the drought as it connects the Colorado River. We're all in this together. And so that fundamental reality forces a conversation anew. And of course, that forces a conversation that's not unique, as I suggest, is here in the state of California. I mean, look at what's happened just in Texas this year alone. They had 6 power plants go down this year because of extreme heat. You saw what happened to them last year. It was 10x what happened to us in August of 2020 as it relates to their grid. Talk about vulnerability of a grid. That vulnerability exists and persists with natural gas plants and more traditional fossil fuel plants. Those grid realities came to the fore with that 10-day heat dome, unprecedented in California's history. 1,000 records were broken, 125 degrees in September in the state of California. What more evidence do we need that we have disabused ourselves of the way we've done things? And the pace of this change has forced us to reconcile that we have an obligation to one another to move with deliberative speed. And I think the great news is you're doing it. This county, this community, you're dominating. You're a global leader in this transition already. You're proving the paradigm. We have 6 times more fossil fuel jobs clean energy jobs than fossil fuel jobs already. We see the economic growth of your transition already allows us to lay claim to this status, which you may have seen. Now the 4th largest economy in the world. Eat your heart out, Germany. That's the state of California. That just happened. And by the way, tell all those folks on the anger machine every single night to square that reality. Square the fact that we had 7.8% GDP growth last year. Really? Texas, 5.6. Cute. That's our state. Lowest unemployment in recorded history last week, again, in the state of California. Highest reserves in history, highest operating surplus in history, and the largest tax rebates in U.S. history. 18 million households getting $9.5 billion. If you haven't gotten your check, open your mailbox. It's coming in the next weeks and over the next months. I say that as a point of deep pride because we don't always feel that. And that's not a reality for everybody, and I understand that anxiety. But I also understand our responsibility, and I want you to know we're framing our strategies to represent the disproportionality of those impacts. And by the way, they don't just include reimagining a future through our 13 regional frameworks that we're engaging in, providing grants and resources along the B3K or the Fresno Drive models and models that are being created by all of you, but also in terms of impacts to general funds. We put in the budget this year the opportunity for the County of Kern, if they can prove the economic impacts of the transition in a deleterious way, meaning they're having an impact on their ability to support, your ability to support your general fund and other services, the state will backfill that impact. That's in the budget this year. We have your back. It's not just rhetorical. And so I'm really excited about this. It's a framework of abundance and growth, innovation, entrepreneurial. It's what we do best. We have the opportunity to dominate the future, dominate this clean energy future, to dominate the biggest global opportunity that has ever presented itself. And we have the opportunity to accelerate that and lead. And you are on the leading and cutting edge of that transition in real time. And that's why I'm here, to bolster this effort, to recognize the anxiety that comes with that because of the change, and to let you know we're not going to walk away from our commitment to be here with you as we accelerate this transition and you accelerate a low carbon green growth future where the sky is the limit in Kern County.
So I think that is exactly the sort of inspiration and message that, that we need here. And I'm going to give you a few minutes just in case. You know, we heard a few comments from some folks in the legislature and you know, that just have a very different point of view.
Of course.
And, you know, taking the politics out of it, you know, like people can just disagree about this or the right way to go about it or whatever. Any specific comments you want to say back to those voices that, you know, again, it's not personal, it's just this other point of view. What advice do you have for them, or where, like, how do you want to meet them on this journey?
Well, empathetically, I mean, look, I'm not naive. Change is difficult. But we're in the change business. I mean, California has long been in the future business. I mean, the future happens here first. We're America's coming attraction. The world looks to us for leadership, entrepreneurial energy. I mean, if you look at why we just, and again, it's not official, but Bloomberg believes we're $72 billion already. Our GDP is greater than Germany. It's in this sector. It's because of our dominance in clean energy. Consider the largest power plant already in California, the largest power plant is battery storage. Bigger than Diablo Canyon, 2,250 megawatts Diablo. Battery storage was 3,360 at peak on September, I think, 16th, in terms of the ability to draw down that energy. You already have the largest wind and solar facilities in the world in California, the largest installed in Cupertino, rooftop solar in the world. We're dominating in this area, and that's the great abundant opportunity. And so I would say, folks, keep doing what we're doing. Let's be mindful we have the backs of those we're transitioning. There's 1,098 permits. I know everybody gets caught up in CalGEM, but 1,098 of those permits that everybody's talking about are for well capping, real jobs. The same folks that have the pride in the work they've been doing, they'll have the pride in being part of that transition. And we want to make sure these are living wage jobs. Not everyone has to get a PhD. Not everybody has to go to Stanford or Harvard. I hope you saw the budget enhancements we just did. Talk about innovation. Bakersfield, we did 83, because of the mayor's great work, $83 million for that innovation center at CSU Bakersfield. That's a point of, we want to done that unless we want to unleash that spirit of innovation. Look at the tens of millions of dollars we provided because of Mayor Dyer and others that demanded more support, Fresno State and elsewhere, for their innovation as it relates to issues of carbon capture and as it relates to healthy soils, as it relates to our transition in terms of leading cutting-edge technology for agriculture as well. This is where we separate our game from the game played everywhere else. We can't recreate the 19th century. We have the opportunity to dominate the future, and again, you're proving that here in this county.
Excellent. So I'm just thinking about your first 4 years as governor, and I'm going through the list in my head.
It was very relaxing.
It was
stressless.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've done wildfires, we've done a global pandemic, we're doing the energy evolution. Let's assume the voters. Social unrest. So you can complete that list, and then also
utility that had some financial challenges, you may recall.
Okay, this is getting depressing.
Yeah,
and you want the job for another 4 years.
Yeah,
and you're asking people to hire you again. So assuming that they say yes to that in a few days, talk about the next 4 years.
Well, I'm very anxious about what's going on in the country. I'm very anxious. I mean, what more evidence do you need than this morning's headlines with Speaker Pelosi's husband, who I've known since my birth. Literally, he's known me since my first breaths. What's happening in terms of the political polarization, the othering, the cruelty, the humiliating that's going on in our body politics, the scapegoating, the zest for demonization, a country that's just so far this year, states that have banned 1,651 books, banning books, rewriting history, banning free speech. 137 gag rules have been passed in this country. That requires private companies to counsel against speech that is deemed inappropriate by elected officials. Look that up. I'm worried about what's going on with the toxicity that's led even members of my own party to express their own xenophobia and nativism, bigotry, anti-Semitism. But I contrast that as a way of answering your question in this light. California has never been better positioned. It's just objectively true. It's not true if you read exclusively the Wall Street Journal Ed Board, because you will not have that mind shaped into believing that. But objectively, California's never been better positioned to navigate in this environment. We practice pluralism. We're hardly imperfect. 27% of the state is foreign-born. The state is coming to grips with the fact that we're reaching peak immigration in this country. We're double the rest of the nation. We worked through the 1990s and the xenophobia and the nativism. We worked through the Briggs Initiative and the idea that being gay somehow is sexualizing something, as opposed to being straight is not inherently sexualizing something. We've worked through those things. And we've come out more resilient and stronger. And on that point of resiliency, because it goes to points of pride, and pride in you. And that's why I'm so proud to have this privilege of representing you, the best of my ability, humbly representing you, is on both wealth and health, this state outperforms. It's a fact, and a stubborn one, that our economy contracted at a lower rate than states, say, like Florida and Texas and Indiana in 2020, and it expanded faster in 2021, and we dominated in terms of saving people's lives. 54% lower per capita deaths associated with COVID in the state of California than the state of Florida on both health and wealth. I say this not because we're perfect, not because this has been easy, not because you may individually have a different point of view or have had a different experience, but I'm proud of this state, 40 million Americans strong, and our capacity for renewal and rebirth and leadership. And so it's in that spirit, Ashley, of leadership that I humbly submit that you all should not fall prey to the cynicism and all the stacking of stress that's coming our way. That we are uniquely positioned to not just survive the next few years, but to thrive. And that's why I'm here in the spirit that defines the work you do every single day. I said it last year, I'll say it again next year. If you don't like the world, the way it looks when you're standing up, stand on your head and go local. Remarkable things are still happening at the local level. Communities, large and small. And final words, there's no more dynamic and exciting region in California. When I drive through Merced, when I drive through those big cities of Fresno, when I come to this metropolis of Bakersfield, and I make my way down to that suburb called Los Angeles, I tell all my friends in LA, you need to spend more time in your state. Go east, young man, go east. Thank you all very much for everything you've been doing, and thanks for all your leadership.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Take care. Thank you, Ashley. So that happened.